The Olympic Park Stadium was packed, with over 50,000 fans screaming in unison as the lights slowly dimmed. It was the most anticipated night of the year for Seoul's ARMY's, Jungkook's solo concert, the youngest member of BTS in his hometown. What no one could have imagined was that this performance would change not only the artist's life, but the lives of thousands of people around the world. 3 months before the concert, Jungkook had received a call that would change everything. On the other end of the line, a trembling voice introduced herself as Dr. Kim Min-ji, director of a small charity organization called Silent Dreams. Jungkook see, she had begun hesitantly. I know you must get a lot of requests, but I need to tell you about a girl. The story that followed left the young singer speechless. Lee So-young, just 12 years old, had been hospitalized at Seoul Children's Hospital for 8 months, battling a rare form of leukemia. But it wasn't just her condition that made her special. So-young had been deaf since birth and communicated solely through sign language. She discovered your music through vibrations, Dr. Kim explained. She places her hands on the speakers and feels every beat, every melody. She learned to sing your songs in sign language, creating her own choreographies. To her, you're not just an idol, you're proof that music transcends all senses. Jungkook felt a lump in his throat. How can I help? The experimental treatment that could save her costs 500 million won. Her family, they can't afford it. They've already sold everything. That night, Jungkook couldn't sleep. He walked through the hallways of his home, thinking about the girl he had never met, but who had somehow touched his soul in a way he couldn't even explain. He had the money to help, but he knew that wouldn't be enough. There were thousands of children like So-young. That's when an idea began to take shape in his mind. His solo concert was scheduled for 3 months later. Ticket sales had already broken records, and the endorsement deals guaranteed an astronomical sum. What if? The next morning, Jungkook called his manager, Bang Si-hyuk. Hyung, I need to talk to you about the concert. Of course, what's going on? I want to donate all the proceeds. The silence on the other end of the line lasted almost a full minute. Jungkook, do you know how much money we're talking about? It's billions of won. I know. His voice was firm, more determined than Bang Si-hyuk had ever heard. But I need to do this. Over the following weeks, Jungkook worked secretly with Dr. Kim to identify cases similar to So-young's. They discovered that there were 47 children with rare diseases in hospitals across Seoul who needed expensive and experimental treatments. Some were orphans, others came from families who had lost everything trying to save them. But Jungkook wanted to go further. He began researching children's hospitals in developing countries, discovering realities that shocked him deeply. Children dying from treatable diseases simply due to a lack of basic resources. I can't save the world, he confessed to Dr. Kim during one of their secret meetings in a discreet cafe. But I can start something. That's how the project Harmony for Hope was born. An initiative that would use all the concerts, proceeds not only to fund treatments for the 47 identified children in Seoul, but also to build a medical support network for underprivileged children around the world. 2 weeks before the concert, Jungkook did something no one expected. Disguised with a cap and mask, he visited Seoul Children's Hospital. He wanted to meet So-young personally. When he entered her room, he found a small, frail girl, but with eyes that sparkled in a special way. She had her hands resting on a small speaker connected to her phone, listening to Euphoria through the vibrations. Jungkook slowly removed his mask. So-young recognized him immediately and began to cry, her hands moving quickly in sign language. The nurse translated, "She's saying, 'Did you come to see me sing?'" With tears in his eyes, Jungkook sat beside the bed. "Can you teach me your version of the song?" What happened next was magical. So-young began to sing Euphoria. In sign language, her small arms moving gracefully in the air, creating a unique and moving choreography. Jungkook tried to follow along, stumbling through the gestures, but smiling like he hadn't in a long time. "She wants to know if you can sing with her at the concert," the nurse translated. Jungkook took So Young's delicate hands and, looking directly into her eyes, replied, "It would be an honor." The day of the concert arrived. The stadium was in a frenzy, but backstage, Jungkook was more nervous than ever. Not because of the performance. He had been born for the stage. He was nervous because he knew that this night would change his life forever. So Young was in a special wheelchair in the front row, accompanied by her mother and Dr. Kim. Beside her were the other 47 children who would benefit from the project, each with their own story of struggle and hope. The concert began explosively. Jungkook sang his biggest hits, danced like never before, and connected with the audience in a visceral way. But everyone could tell there was something different about him, an emotional intensity that went beyond performance. When it was time for Euphoria, the lights went out. A spotlight illuminated Jungkook at the center of the stage. "This song," he began, his voice echoing through the silent stadium, "has always been special to me. But today it has a completely new meaning." He looked directly at So Young in the front row. "I recently learned that music doesn't need to be heard to be felt, that love doesn't need words to be understood, and that sometimes the smallest people teach us the biggest lessons about courage." The music started, but this time something extraordinary happened. A giant screen showed So Young singing along, her hands moving in perfect sync with the melody. The audience, initially confused, soon realized what was happening and began to cry. Jungkook sang like he had never sung before, every word filled with emotion. When he reached the chorus, he stopped singing and began making the gestures So Young had taught him. 50,000 people fell into absolute silence, watching their idol sing in sign language. After the song ended, with the audience still in an emotional shock, Jungkook walked to the front of the stage. "Tonight," he began, his voice breaking slightly, "I'm not just an artist. I'm a human being who has learned about purpose." He took a deep breath. "All the proceeds from this concert, every penny, will be donated to the treatment of children with rare diseases and to the construction of children's hospitals in countries that need them. Because I've learned that true euphoria doesn't come from personal success, but from knowing we can make a difference in someone else's life." The stadium erupted. These weren't just screams from fans, they were tears of emotion, applause that seemed endless. Many people were openly crying, including other BTS members watching from backstage. "But this is just the beginning," Jungkook continued. "I invite each of you to join me on this journey. The Harmony for Hope project will be a platform where all of us, together, can bring hope to those who need it most." In the days following the concert, something extraordinary happened. So Young's story and Jungkook's gestures spread around the world. Fans from every continent began donating to Harmony for Hope. Other artists joined the cause. Companies offered support. Within 2 weeks, the project had raised the equivalent of $50 million. So Young was one of the first to receive the experimental treatment. 3 months later, she was in complete remission. But more than that, she had become a symbol of hope for deaf children around the world, showing that music truly has no barriers. 6 months after the concert, Jungkook visited So Young again. This time she was at home, playing in the garden. Her hair had grown back, and her smile lit up the entire place. "Appa," she said in sign language, with her mother translating, "thank you for teaching me that we can all be the music in someone's life." Jungkook knelt beside her, his own hands moving in gestures he had learned perfectly. "Thank you for teaching me what euphoria really means." Today, 2 years after that magical night at Olympic Park, Harmony for Hope has already helped over 10,000 children around the world. It has built 15 hospitals in countries across Africa and Asia, funded research for rare diseases, and created a medical exchange program that brings specialists to underserved regions. So Young, now 14 and completely cured, has become the project's ambassador. She travels the world teaching sign language for popular songs, showing that true art transcends all limitations. Jungkook has never publicly spoken about how much of his own money he donated that night. Some estimate it was over 10 billion won. When asked about it in interviews, he always gives the same answer. Money was just paper. So Young gave me something worth more than any fortune. She showed me my true purpose. The reason Jungkook donated all the proceeds from that concert wasn't just altruism, as many thought. It was something much deeper and more personal. In an intimate interview 2 years later, he finally revealed the whole truth. When I saw So Young singing my song through the vibrations, I realized something that changed my perspective forever. She didn't need to hear to feel the music. She didn't need to speak to communicate with me. She didn't need to have hair to be beautiful. She didn't need to be healthy to be strong. His words were interrupted by tears. She showed me that I had spent my whole life focused on what I could gain from my music when I should have been focused on what I could give. In that moment, I realized that being truly rich isn't about how much you have, but about how many lives you can touch. He smiled through the tears. So Young saved me just as much as I saved her. She showed me that true euphoria isn't being loved by millions of people, but loving enough to make a difference in a single person's life. And so, the story of a donation that shocked the world was, in fact, the story of how a deaf girl taught one of the biggest stars on the planet the true meaning of music, generosity, and life. Harmony for Hope continues to grow, touching lives on every continent. And somewhere in Seoul, a girl who once sang in silence now teaches the world that love, like music, doesn't need sound to be felt. It only needs a heart willing to give and receive. That's the real story behind the headline that stopped the world. Jungkook donated all the proceeds from this show. The reason why will surprise you. And the reason truly surprised everyone, including himself.